I want to say that it's something to be here with you, Senator Harkin, with Senator Alexander, and earlier with Senator Hatch. Truly giants in this field. Your work on the Americans with Disabilities Act is historic and truly changed this country. So thank you. And you will be missed when you go. But I'm glad you're here for 2 more years. We have a lot of work to do. You know, I also want to say this is a very personal hearing for me and very important on this work. I taught special needs children, was my first real paying job, and I love the work. And you know, I'll just say, teachers who teach special needs kids work hard, and special needs kids work hard. But it was always in the back of my mind, where do they get to go from here for all their hard work? And so a hearing that talks about how we open more opportunities for our young people who have worked for so many years to get themselves into a position where they will be able to do meaningful work is really important. And so I commend you for your work, Governor, and commend you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. I also hope, Governor, that you will indulge me if I brag on my governor from back in Massachusetts.
He's the best.
He is pretty terrific, isn't he? Because Governor Patrick, in the first 90 days after he became governor, put in executive orders that have resulted in an increase, about a 70% increase in the employment of people with disabilities in the executive branch of government. And I want to talk for just a minute, if I can, about 2 particular parts of what Governor Patrick did, just so we get some conversation about it. One of them is that Governor Patrick insisted on mandatory training for all employees in the executive branch, so that the issues about employing disabled citizens was something that everyone talked about. I just wonder if you could talk about that for just a minute.
I think it's a great
Governor.
idea. And I mean, it does not surprise me that Governor Patrick is a leader in this field. I mean, he really is. He's extraordinarily effective. And I think that, I mean, so much of this, again, has to do with the culture, the expectations, how will they be received. And one of the things that we had just the other day at the NGA hearing, a vice president of a company, as I mentioned, that makes windows and doors in Baltimore. I think it's about a 60-employee company. And they've got quite a few people with disabilities, and it's not something that they really intended to do. They thought, you know, a window and door place is actually, you know, can be pretty dangerous with all the glass, and they said this really couldn't work, but they had a very effective advocate who said give it a shot. And one of the things that they found is that this has made them a kinder company. Yeah. When you go to the Walgreens facility in Windsor, Connecticut, that Senator Harkin and I went to, there are signs all over the place making clear it's not us and them, it is we. And this is a very important learning that the way for this to be successful is that we will learn from each other. And I think this idea of the training for all people makes it a whole lot more likely that the people with disabilities will be more successful, and that as a result, the organization as a whole be successful.
Good. Thank you very much, Governor. Can I ask one more question? Governor Patrick also set up a pool of money so that it could be used to help pay for reasonable accommodations when a little change, just as Senator Harkin was talking about, needs to be made, and we understand that everyone's under financial pressure. There was a pot of money to go to be able to make those changes if they would permit the employment of someone who is disabled. Could you comment on that one, please?
Well, it's interesting, and one of the things that some of the folks talk about at the panel the other day, I mean, certainly some accommodations do need to be made. In the case of Walgreens, which has about 250 employees at the Windsor, Connecticut facility who have disabilities, another 250 people without disabilities. There they have 2 job coaches. Now, not every company can afford a job. I mean, if you're a 10-person company, you may not be able to afford a job coach. But what one of the companies the other day found is that the accommodations have ended up costing maybe $500 per employee. I mean, just not a big deal. They thought it would be a lot, but they've essentially, one of the things that they found, they actually became a safer company when they brought in more employees with disabilities, because they really took a hard look at their processes, and they wanted to make sure that the people with disabilities were not injured, the improvements that they made actually made it safer for everybody else. And so the accommodations can vary considerably from place to place. I think it is reasonable to expect that some accommodation may have to be made, but it's also likely, if you really think about how you're doing your business, it may not be that expensive. And I also appreciate you bringing up the idea of employment in the public sector generally. Our initiative, while largely focused on working with businesses, also recognizes that we as state governments can be model employers as well, and we have to walk the walk. And there are lots of opportunities in governments, whether it's state, federal, local, where we can provide these employment opportunities. And I think it's easier, frankly, to go to businesses to encourage them to do the right thing here when we can say, here are some of the steps that we're taking within our own government, and it's working for us.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Governor. Thank you for the pivot to what would have been my third question, but I would have been out of time. And thank you very much for your work, and greetings from Governor Patrick.
Give my best.
Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say, Ms. Boone and Dr. O'Brien and Mr. Uchida, thank you very much for the work you do. It's just terrific. It's inspiring, and like the chairman, I read your testimony. It was just terrific. I wondered if I could change the conversation, just move it in a little bit different direction. I've been thinking a lot about the vets who are returning from Iraq and Afghanistan and who have sustained injuries that make it difficult for them to find employment. And really more by happenstance than anything else, this morning I was meeting with a group of veterans and activists. We had the vet coordinator from Framingham State University. I had the vice commander of the Disabled American Veterans and the director of the Boston Firefighters Military Veterans Legion, and several others. And the first part of the conversation that they brought up was the frustration they feel with the Veterans Administration. They talk about delays, lack of engagement, that they feel like they're not getting the kind of support and that vets are not getting the kind of support they deserve. And so I wonder if you could speak just a little bit to the challenges facing our veterans, to your perception of how the Veterans Administration is meeting those needs, and about other options and how you create alignments in programs with the Veterans Administration. Mr. Uchida, you look ready to go.
Thank you, Senator. We have a formal cooperative agreement with our local VA. In fact, we have a very, very close working relationship because that entire vocational rehabilitation unit is our former employees who left our state agency to go work for the federal government for higher wages. So they know our system, and they have a very, very close working relationship. We are aware of some of those problems and the shortcomings, so we have a cooperative agreement where most of the medical, high-end, expensive kinds of therapeutic modalities, they're taken care of by the VA. Those other things that they're either waiting for, that we can justify, we pay for with our vocational rehabilitation services money because of the cooperative agreement that we have with them. And so, yeah, that is a problem. The TBIs that come with a lot of those create some barriers to work with, but we are getting some of our staff trained to deal with that particular population. We've sent some of our people to work with directly to get training through the VA to kind of understand their system a little bit better so we can navigate through all those problems that you discussed a little bit easier.
Dr. O'Brien?
I come at this issue from both a personal and a professional perspective. I have a brother who's a retired first sergeant from the Army who was medically retired and who had to use the VA's rehabilitation system in order to earn his degree, and he now runs he's a manager of a major manufacturing plant, but he went through that system. I have a nephew who returned from Afghanistan as a Purple Heart winner who's had to utilize both types of vocational rehabilitation and who will graduate from college, we believe, this summer. So we've seen it in that system, and I have a son who's a soldier in Germany right now. So I pay quite a bit of attention to the veterans piece. In Oklahoma, what we've found is that the Veterans Administration rehabilitation counselors typically have very large caseloads, but they also have more money to serve people than we do. So what we've begun a process of trying to do is we meet regularly with their counselors. My counselors and their counselors meet at different times across the state. And we've found that we can provide counseling and case management and personal connection perhaps at a more convenient way than they can, because their caseloads are bigger than our caseloads, but that they can provide the resources. The other thing that we've tried to do is I regularly attend their state meeting and visit with their counselors, and their supervisor attends our meetings to be a part of that. We've not perfected the system, but what we've found is when we're at the table together, as often as we can get to the table together, we can find ways to pick up in the places where there are problems. Yes, it's still slow, but more people are being served, and more people are getting opportunity, and they're able to use both systems when we partner together, like we're trying to do in Oklahoma.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time, I realize. Would it be all right if Ms. Boone responded as well? Thank you.
Fortunately, for the interest of time, there's not a person within the Division of Developmental Disabilities who has served in the military. So this is not a matter that I'm familiar with.
Oh, well, that saved us on time. But thank you very much. I appreciate the responses. And I very much, though, want to underline what I think I was hearing, and that is you're working hard, but it is a problem that is nowhere near a solution yet, that our vets are waiting long, long time, and you're trying to piece things together to try to make it work for them. Would that be a correct summary?
I think that there's a lot of people trying very hard, but you're right, it's not as efficient as it needs to be yet, but there are dedicated people focused on it.
Fair enough.